what Tuesday? What am I talking? I'm all over the place, Adam. Thursday, not even close to Tuesday. October 25th. Only a measly 4-gamer talking NBA today, Adam. But hey, by the way, you're 74 on Giannis. You are way off.
Yeah, I was off by like 10%. It was a pretty bad projection.
No, nice job on that. Yeah, it was I'll tell you what, Oladipo was the one I was pretty heavy on. I know you liked him a lot yesterday too.
Yeah.
It's funny because he finished with like 45, and that's not killing you at 7,800 at all. But if you had watched any of the fourth quarter, they were up by like 20. He came back in and kind of just like would dish it out and do this. I think he got a steal at the end. But I just wish that the Pacers would play in a single competitive game.
Yeah.
So you could,
both your guys yesterday got screwed by the scoreboard.
Oh, Whiteside too, right? Is that who you're talking? Yeah.
Yeah, Whiteside.
And it's the thing is, like, Whiteside finished with what? He still was
46.
with 46, and I don't, and he was whatever.
He didn't step on the floor in the fourth quarter.
Right. I mean, he was on pace for 60, man.
Yeah, he was 0.78% owned in the big $5 or $8 or whatever it was on DraftKings last night.
I know.
That was frustrating.
I had 35% on 75 lineups of him, and yeah, that sucked because he just got off to a tear. I mean, Enes Kanter defense, man, and Kanter didn't even see that many minutes. Blowouts happen, foul trouble will happen. Was it Young got into some early foul trouble? Trae Young, and I won't even say salvaged, but didn't finish with like 8, which it sure looked like was going to be the case. Basketball, definitely my favorite DFS sport, but you always have that blowout concern. In baseball, unless it's a monster blowout, they're still getting their at bats, and in football, it's pretty rare that they're benched in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? But basketball, you do see that quite often.
It's always funny to me because, like, by the end of basketball season, obviously there's more variance in baseball, but by the end of basketball season, I'm always excited for, like, okay, whatever. I know my guy's going to hit 4 times. I don't have to worry about blowouts and foul trouble and stuff. And then by the end of baseball season, it's like, for the love of God, just like, I'll take foul trouble. Just, let me stop getting line drives right at people.
Yeah, pretty much. Look, they all have the perks, and they all have the aspects of them that make you upset. But what do you say we jump into this 4-gamer?
Yeah, let's go. I think there's actually a lot to talk about.
All right. By the way, Awesomeo, you've heard of him, Alex Baker, going to be coming on with Josh Engelman and Eddie at 6:15. I'm not sure how long he'll be staying, but he will be there, so you'll want to stick around for that. Someone asked why does Laffy look so much bigger than Adam, or Adam looks so much bigger than Laffy on the screen? Let me see what I can do to fix this. Lower my camera a little bit. Maybe our trusty producer can. What do you say, Josh? What do you say?
I'll probably make this worse.
All right. No, I think we're good. Look, as long as you can hear us, you don't need to see these faces anyway. But let's get into it, man. Portland and Orlando, Dame Lillard, featured in this Portland team. CJ McCollum, by the way, I'll never forget. You remember, was it like, I think it was 3 seasons ago when he was going into his second season and Nick Batum was traded, and it was like, all right, it's CJ McCollum's time to shine. And he was like $4,100 on DraftKings on opening night, and he smashed. I feel like that's the last good CJ McCollum game I've had. Does it not feel like, that he's got some upside, but they're not staggering the minutes as much with Lillard right now. We'll start with the Portland team and we'll work our way over to Orlando. It's just you might look at it and say, wow, CJ McCollum's really underpriced, but how underpriced is he, given that he isn't someone that's necessarily going to give you those upside games all that often right now or anymore?
I actually do think he's really underpriced, though. I haven't been on him earlier in the season because, like you said, they're not staggering the minutes with with Lillard, but there's a couple of things that stand out. For one, he's still getting his shots. He has a 27.1% usage rate this season. That's obviously good. He got up 25 shots in that game against the Wizards, only made 9 of them, which leads to his 46.8% true shooting percentage so far this season. He has a 55.1% true shooting percentage for his career. So he's shooting poorly. That's a big reason why his numbers have been so bad. And then also he does lose assists by not playing point guard with the second unit anymore, but he's also running bad, I think, in that department as well. I played around last night with some numbers and took one of Lofty's favorite stats, his potential assists, and basically tried to and created an equation to try and get a expected assist percentage instead of using assist percentage, actual assist percentage, where especially over a short sample size earlier in the season, you're reliant on guys actually making shots when you pass them the ball. And so far this year, McCollum has a 10.2 actual assist percentage, but I have him with a 16.5% expected assist percentage. So I think he's shooting worse than you'll see going forward. I think he's getting less assists than you should see going forward, and the price tag's dropping. So I expect that I'll have a ton of CJ McCollum tonight.
Yeah. Hello World said, Luffy, you didn't play CJ against the Kings on 12/27/15. I don't know. I don't know if he's joking. Was that the game where he was incorrectly put in the do you remember what the day where CJ McCollum was incorrectly written into the lineup or no, written out of the lineup and wasn't allowed to play? Do you remember that?
No.
You don't?
No.
I do, if that helps.
Okay. I think it was against the Clippers. And they forgot to write him on the, I guess, like when you submit a lineup or else you have to submit it. And
Right.
there was a clerical error or wherever it came from. And he wasn't written into the lineup or into the roster and was not allowed to play that night.
Yeah, no, I can't believe I don't remember that, but I don't.
Yeah, because a lot of people played him that night. But look, I definitely agree with you that he's too cheap. I just sometimes you have to play devil's advocate here. Another stat that I do like to look at is touches and compare them to different seasons. Last year CJ McCollum averaged around 60 touches per game. Dame averaged 82. This season, Dame's up around 84 and McCollum's around 50. So look, that can still balance out. Evan Turner's second on the team with 61. But yeah, McCollum's 9-10 fewer touches so far than he did last season. Again, take that for what it's worth. It's not that important. But then you also look at a couple of other things. Points per touch is actually pretty good. His point per touch is 0.382, right? That's actually not that bad. It's just so we say that his shooting has been bad, but the fact that he's not touching the ball that much, he hasn't been that unproductive when he is touching the ball. 6,100 is cheap. I will give you that. I just wish they were staggering the minutes more. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does give him a little bit more appeal, but I'm hoping the price tag isn't so cheap that people just like jump to it because it's obvious. I'm hoping that people kind of just look at the game logs and keep moving, because I think it's a really, really, really good spot for him to bounce back.
Yeah, by the way, hit that like button for us. It does us a lot of favors. Helps us keep the lights on. You know where to find it. Anyone else, though, because you have Lillard at 87. Lillard, I think we've oftentimes compared him from a fantasy sense to a John Wall, just that can Lillard have those monster games? Yes. Is he a fourth quarter magician? Absolutely. But is he a guy that most nights you expect to finish between 40 and maybe 52? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have an issue with Lillard. The problem for me more is that you have Russell Westbrook, who I think is really underpriced. He's 10,500 on DraftKings. I think that's way too cheap for him, and it's relatively close to Lillard. Then you have guys with a similar ceiling below him, with like Kyrie Irving down there. So I think I kind of doubt that I'll get to much Lillard. I would much rather play CJ McCollum at his price tag.
Yeah, so would I. I think you could get it's very feasible. You get like a 35 point game from McCollum and a 40-point game from Lillard, and the McCollum pays that price tag off more often than Lillard. Not even to say that Lillard is expensive. But as you mentioned, comparatively speaking to the other high-priced guys on this slate, it kind of takes away some of that shine. I mentioned that Evan Turner. You know what's kind of crazy about it? You're talking about 61 touches per game for Evan Turner, which is actually quite a bit when you consider that he's playing 22 minutes per game. That's a wild ratio, Adam. I'm not saying to play the guy. He's not a particularly high upside player, but it does go to show you that the ball is moving through Evan Turner quite a bit in those 20 minutes that he is on the court. I found that really surprising.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense because he's playing now, whereas his minutes before with the second unit used to be alongside McCollum. Now it's with Seth Curry and Nick Stauskas. So I would expect that Turner is handling the ball quite a bit.
Yeah. But I mean, even, 10 more touches, 11 more touches per game than McCollum. But yeah, it does make sense. And again, touches aren't everything. It just goes to show you that Evan Turner is at least being able to do a decent amount with the second unit. If we were getting like 30 minutes or even 28 per game from Evan Turner, I really wouldn't have a problem with him at this price point. But at that salary, it's kind of tough. Yusuf Nurkic, another one of those guys that I think you and I both love his upside. And I think we talked about him on Monday. If he got the minutes, it could be a monster game. And it was 22, 18, and 52 fantasy points. It was an explosive game from Nurkic. Well, the Magic feature 2 7-footers in Nick Vucevic and Mo Bamba. Barring foul trouble, it's very feasible that Nurkic exceeds 30 minutes again in this one.
Yeah, this is a spot that I really like Nurkic. He's been a monster point per minute this season. He's averaging 1.5 DraftKings points per minute, and he's always been a very productive player. It's just an issue of Terry Stotts is very quick to pull him if a game goes small and he doesn't have an advantageous matchup. He has no issue going to Zach Collins as the backup center. But one good sign from that Washington game, aside from the fact that Nurkic was just an absolute monster, was that Washington didn't have a true center really, because Mahinmi was in foul trouble / injured, and Dwight Howard's not playing, and Nurkic still got the minutes. Now you have an Orlando team where Nikola Vucevic is a center that Nurk matches up with fine. Bamba, like you said, isn't going to run Nurkic off the floor. So barring foul trouble, there's no reason to expect that he doesn't play, close to his minute ceiling and get, 30 to 32 minutes in here.
Yeah, I don't know if Rick's being serious. He said, you screwed me with the Joe Ingles touches, Laffy. I didn't even recommend him. I just said that we're living in the twilight zone, that this guy is leading the league in touches. But moving on, I think Nurkic has the just monster upside here, Adam. I mean, whenever given the opportunity, he does. You can't look at his minutes and be like, well, his minutes have gone up each game. That means nothing, as you mentioned with Terry Stotts. It really doesn't. It's just, are you willing to take the risk? This is a guy that on a per 36-minute basis has averaged north of a fantasy point per minute every season of his career. Every year, Adam, even when he was dealing with monster foul trouble back in his first couple of seasons with the Nuggets, when he was on the court, he's productive. And that's just who Yusuf Nurkic is. And I can pretty much say this much. It's very rare that you get that if Nurkic plays 30 minutes at 6,700, it's very rare that he kills you. And it's very likely that he helps you.
Yeah, exactly. He's another guy that just contributes in every category. He scores, he rebounds, but he's also a good passer. I'm pulling it up now, but his expected assist percentage this season, I have it at 12.6%, and then a 28% usage rate, 23.5% rebounding percentage. So that's just solid contributions across the board that make him really productive.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, by the way, I just pulled this up. Yesterday, Joe Ingles touched the ball 40 times. So 60 fewer times than he did in his 3 previous games. That's crazy, dude. That's why I said we're living in the twilight zone. Anyway, Jacob, we'll get to that question shortly. Remind me if we get there and I forget about it, because it's coming up right after this. Or anything else on the Portland side? If not, let's talk Orlando.
No, I think that's it.
All right. Are you on? Because I just told you one of the centers that I really like. You really like McCollum. I'm with you at the price point. Any interest in these Orlando guys?
I like Vucevic a lot as well. Center's just an absolutely loaded position on this slate. I think we'll get to another guy that's cheaper that we probably both like a lot. And then there are a couple of really expensive guys. But I don't want to overlook Vucevic here. I expect that he should be able to play big minutes as well against Nurkic. And I think it's a really good sign that we saw Vucevic stay on the floor in a tough defensive matchup against Joel Embiid 2 games ago after he had lost minutes to Bamba in the Magic's first game. So that doesn't appear like it's going to actually be a trend going forward, him losing minutes to Bamba. So I think that's really good. And he's just another guy. There's several very good passing centers on this slate that contribute assists in addition to their rebounding and their scoring. And Vooch is another one of them. I think that his upside is as high as, really any center on the slate. He's less expensive than some of them.
You know what's real difficult to gauge with Vooch is that the coaching carousel in Orlando has been wild since he's been with them, since he was traded from the Sixers, right? He's seen he's seen James Borrego. I think even Jock Vaughn for a time was there when he first came. He's seen Scott Skiles. He's seen Frank Vogel, and now you have Steve Clifford, who was Charlotte's head coach prior to this season. Like, there have been so many different coaches that Vooch has dealt with, and none of them just give the guy 30 plus minutes a game. There's no reason not to. He's another guy, Adam, that when he gets the minutes, it's very rare that he's going to disappoint. I think both centers in this game are very much in play. But when it all comes down to it, there's only one center in this world that really means anything to me, and we all know who he is.
JaVale McGee.
JaVale McGee. Oh yeah, dude, what a stud. I mean, he played 26 minutes in a blowout. Like he's finally getting. I can't wait to talk about him. We'll get there shortly. Anyone else for Orlando? Is it just Vooch?
Pretty much just Vooch. I don't mind mixing in Aaron Gordon. Obviously, he has a ceiling. You have Fournier playing big minutes, but Vooch is the one that I'm most interested in.
Aaron Gordon is quite literally one of my favorite tournament plays on a nightly basis, especially in good matchups where he goes ignored, because he can have a lot of very underwhelming games, but he's also athletic enough, can play in transition, can play above the rim, can grab offensive boards. He can do everything to have that monster game that you need. Don't call me crazy when I say that he has similar qualities to Giannis, but in terms of like a poor man's, well, actually he can shoot threes. In terms of a poor man's Giannis, a guy that can collect rebounds and pick up a lot of points around the basket and get those peripherals, the blocks and the steals. I mean, he's nowhere near the player Giannis is, never will be, but he does have, as we've seen, like that monster potential once in a while to have that huge game because of what he can do in so many different categories,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Cleveland and Detroit. You know what? I'm gonna let you kick this one off because we're without Kevin Love. So let's talk about what rotations we expect to see here. I know Osman and Love really didn't do you many favors in that blowout yesterday, and now Kevin Love is out of this one. So let's talk about it.
So I think this is a game that we're going to have to wait to see the starting lineup because it's going to give us insight into what to expect. There's 2 different ways I could see this game going. I wrote about and talked about on the podcast one way that I could see it going where the guards from both teams get more minutes, or specifically the guards from Cleveland, than we've seen, because for the most part this season, George Hill and Colin Sexton have not been playing alongside each other. 2 games ago against the Hawks, however, they did play a lot of minutes together. And then yesterday you had J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver join the rotation. So Sexton went back to just being the backup point guard. If you look at how they match up with Detroit, however, Smith and Reggie Jackson have been playing a ton of minutes alongside each other. So it would make sense that we could see some Hill plus Sexton lineups, especially if you project Rodney Hood to play at the 3. You can give J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver minutes at the 3 as well. And that would mean moving Chetty to the 4 and him matching up with Blake Griffin, which would be a nightmare, but they don't really have anyone better, I don't think, anyway. So that's one way it could go, I think, where you see a few more minutes for guys like Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, Rodney Hood, and then you see Chetty playing primarily at the 4, and Larry Nance only getting a marginal boost. The other way you could see it going is if they decide to start Larry Nance at the 4, then I don't think you see the minute boost for the guards, but you would see a boost for Tristan Thompson and for Larry Nance, because it would signify that they're going to try and play a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger in the front court. Since Larry Nance came to Cleveland, he's only played a total of 18 minutes alongside Tristan Thompson. He hasn't played alongside him since coming back this season. So I'm not convinced that's going to be the way that it goes. I've seen that talked about a lot, that it will be, just by people speculating. So right now I have it mapped out for Chetty to play at the 4, for Larry Nance to pick up a couple of minutes at the 4, but mostly still be the backup center, and for the guards to get additional run. But if we get news that Nance is starting at the 4, then I'm going to project more minutes for Thompson, more minutes for Nance, and I'm going to cut back on Sexton, Clarkson, and Hood.
I think Nance is going to start at the 4. We'll see. I mean, obviously it's speculation, but you have a Detroit front court this is a big dominant front court.
Chetty's the same size as Nance, though. He's just not as strong.
Right, but that matters to me. Nance plays bigger than he is. Like Nance is not your traditional 5, right? Play him a small ball 5 lineup. But Nance is also someone that's just more physical, and they can, like, put it this way: when you're talking about boxing out or crashing the boards, Nance is the guy that I would want at the 4. So look, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe Osman does get the start, but to me it would make more sense for Nance to start at the 4. I guess we'll see. But as you said, it really all does come down to what the starting lineup looks like, because once we get that, we can at least to some extent gather what the rotations will look like after that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just important to have an idea in mind, and so that you're not surprised either way, because you're either going to get Chetty at the 4 and then like a spot start at the 2 from Corver or JR probably, or you're going to get Nance at the 4. So just know either way, like Chetty's going to play big minutes regardless. It's just a matter of at what position. Tristan Thompson's going to play probably 30 minutes or around 30 minutes if Nance doesn't start, and then probably even more if Nance does start. So it's really just have in mind how you can quickly change things depending on what the lineup is.
And you know what? If you're not a ball dominant player, the closer you play to the basket, the more valuable you are from a fantasy standpoint. It's really just simple, right? If Osman plays at the 4, I like him. He's going to be in play anyway because the guy's still getting usage in minutes. But put him closer to the basket. You're giving him more opportunities in the peripheral department as well, and probably more looks closer to the basket. So I think that would change a whole lot. But regardless, he's very much in play. And if Nance starts, right? I think if he starts, you're probably getting how many minutes? You have to think that if he starts, he's getting 32. What do you think?
I was thinking like 26, 28 if he starts.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I was thinking a little bit more.
So I was thinking probably 34 for Tristan with 14 Nance backup minutes, and then around 14 at the 4, and then you would have a handful of minutes go to Decker. Chetty could still play. Chetty would still play the 4, I think, maybe against Stanley Johnson with the second unit. You could do that if it's not Decker, like one of the two. But then the thing for me is that the Cavs still have a ton of guards and a ton of wings, and we know the Pistons are going to play 2-point guard lineups. So it's weird because you have the big front court, but then I think you're going to have a small lineup outside of that, where I just see Nance still not playing like as many minutes maybe as he would if you couldn't slide like Rodney Hood to the 3.
Well, now I'm interested to see what happens, because I think Nance matches up best in this one against this Detroit team. So you know what?
I think he matches up best too. It's just that Lou's been so hesitant to like ever use him alongside Thompson that I'm not sure where he's going to go.
That is the problem, right? It's funny too, because like they're not even. I guess they're similar in that neither are shooters, but Nance is just so much more athletic than Thompson. I can understand to some extent though why he wouldn't want to play them next to each other, but against this front court, he may have to is all I'm saying. We'll see. I still think Nance gets plenty of run though, and look at this Cleveland team. Tristan Thompson, Tristan Thompson, not only does he not create his own shot, but he doesn't shoot. You have Osman. He's going to get up shots. Rodney Hood, man, he's just been an atrocious disaster despite he should have all the opportunity in the world. Kyle Korver, Kyle Korver's attempted 5 shots this season. And then you're just looking at guys like George Hill and Jordan Clarkson and so on and so forth. And all of those guys' minutes are suppressed because of how many guards are being mixed in and out of these rotations. Like Colin Sexton's playing between 23, 25, then 28 minutes. George Hill's playing 24, 28, 25, 31. Clarkson 23, 23, 24, 23. Not even factoring in the blowouts. Rodney Hood 22, 27, 29, 26. I think you get my point here. There's nobody that has been good enough, I guess, in Tyronn Lue's opinion, to say like, all right, you deserve 35 minutes. You're our guy. Go out there in terms of the backcourt.
Yeah, it's a really frustrating spot for me because in theory, I like these guards because they're cheap and because of the way the Pistons play. It's really easy to see, 2 of the point guards on the floor pretty much.
Yeah, Clarkson particularly.
Yeah, exactly. But for one, even like trying to, with Korver and J.R. Smith coming back into the rotation, it just throws a wrench into things because even if I try and project like Colin Sexton to play 28 minutes and Hill to play 30, I still end up either taking way more minutes off of Clarkson than I think is going to happen, or basically making like Korver or Smith a DNP, which it doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. So it just becomes really, really hard to actually project them for meaningful minutes, even if you do think that they're going to run a bunch of 2-point guard lineups.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
so ultimately, I guess George Hill is appealing because I think he plays the most minutes out of that group. And Clarkson's appealing because he's the one out of the group that's most likely to just go out there and shoot the ball 20 times in 20 minutes.
Well, Clarkson clearly has the most upside in this backcourt.
Right.
That's just a fact. There's right. Yeah. So we agree on that. Clarkson clearly has the most upside. George Hill, you want to say has a higher ceiling, but like kind of doesn't. You just know that with Cedi Osman, you're getting and I know people don't like this. You and I, we've been doing shows together how long now? Like I'm not in the business of projecting blowouts because you could try as much as you want, and the games that you think are going to blow out early and you avoid because of a blowout end up not blowing out, and the games you think are staying close blow out. Now, are there exceptions? Yes. Do games that are projected to be blowouts blow out? Yes, they do. But I personally, especially on a 4-game slate, Adam, I don't fade games just because a blowout is possible, especially when in order for teams to blow another team out, someone has to be there to produce. And it's just, I've been burned too many times saying, well, I'm going to fade this game because of blowout. And it doesn't blow out because it's basketball.
Yeah, exactly. And there are just so many times where even if the game does blow out, in all reality, you lose like 3 minutes from your guy. And
for sure.
For the game to blow out, like you said, someone's producing. And a lot of the times it's the star that you would expect it to be. So you basically end up saying like, well, I don't want to roster 34 minutes of Blake Griffin instead of 38, even though he's going to be more efficient than I projected him for. And that's why the game blew out. Like it just ends up being, there's so much noise within, even if you could guarantee the game does blow out, there's still so many different ways that a game does blow out and how it affects fantasy performance that it's just not something I factor in.
For sure. By the way, somebody mentioned Channing Frye. If you're curious, okay, this is a stat that because Channing Frye is starting tonight. We just got that news. If you're ever interested, go look at Channing Frye's production. Go look at Channing Frye's numbers with LeBron James off the court. There were seasons where LeBron was assisting 75% of Channing Frye's 3-pointers. If there's nobody to create for Channing Frye, he is about as useless as you can get, Adam. And LeBron James was always the one that kept him afloat when he got that additional run. It's also worth pointing out that he hasn't played a single minute this season.
Yeah, so like, what's he going to play? Like 14 minutes, like 2 7-minute stints, like 12 minutes, 6 and 6 to start the first and the third.
That's what you would think, right? I mean, the only idea is that Channing Frye. The only thing is what you said is so that they don't have is so that Nance and Thompson can be staggered. That's the only reason
Right.
this would happen.
Yeah. So Blake Griffin's going to score 100 points.
How can he not? Yeah. Let's talk about Detroit. Blake Griffin, dude, that trade got ripped apart last year, right? And I'll admit, I didn't think it was the greatest either, and I still don't. But he has come out and just been absolutely out of this world this season. 3 straight solid games, 2 monster games, 150-point game, career high, by the way. Now you have him against Channing Frye. Dude, this should be a bloodbath. And at 9,600, it's not even that crazy of a price.
Yeah, I mean, I like him a lot here, and he's looked really good this year, but his rates are just outstanding as well. He's got a 32.4% usage rate, a 20.9 expected assist percentage. He's rebounding at a really high clip as well. Yeah, there's a lot to like about him here. The only issue is how deep the center position is because he's power forward center eligible on DraftKings, but also just how many guys there are to pay up for on this slate. So yeah, I mean, I haven't crunched lineups yet, but he's obviously a top play.
You know, I've seen people saying like, "Oh, the peripherals are going to regress." Well, if you know anything about Blake Griffin, you know that when Chris Paul would be injured for the Clippers, Blake Griffin would flirt with triple doubles like what every night. Adam,
Yep.
yeah, he is a phenomenal passer for a big. Like he is an
Yeah.
excellent passer, and you have Reggie Jackson, and then you have guys like Ish Smith backing him up. Neither of these guys are elite level facilitators by any stretch. Blake is definitely being used in every possible capacity there is, and that includes, as a facilitator. I mean, hell, if you want to talk about touches, this is awesome, right? Blake Griffin's a power forward. Pull up Detroit's touches, Adam. Blake Griffin is averaging 95.7 touches per game. Reggie Jackson is second with 67. There's a 30 touch difference per game in terms of Blake Griffin and the starting point guard on the Detroit Pistons. And then when you start looking at passes, like potential assists, Blake Griffin's at 13.3. Ish Smith is second at 6.7. I mean, he leads the team in passes made, in passes received, in assists, in potential assists, in assist points created. I could go on for days. I know it's in the season, but Blake Griffin is a jack of all trades, do it all type of player, rebounding, facilitating, scoring. I just don't know what else there is not to like outside of ownership.
Yeah, I was going to say he's actually taking production away from Reggie Jackson and Ish Smith. When you look at the assist numbers, I have him at a 28.9% expected assist percentage, Ish at 18.4, and Reggie at 14.5. So you're basically turning Ish and Reggie into scorers more than facilitators, and Blake's just doing everything.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you make of the rest of this team?
Andre Drummond, we were talking about it some before the show. I'm not completely sold that it's right, like I was on Giannis, but Andre Drummond's projecting way higher than I expected in my model so far. He's actually been used more offensively. He has a 30% usage rate this year that is skewed by a 34% game against Brooklyn, but he still had elevated usage rates in at least 2 of the 3 games. I think all 3. Has about a 30% rebounding percentage. And it is a game where he has a large size advantage on the Cleveland front court. So I could see a really big game here. And I do think he makes for a good tournament play just because of how deep center is. You're going to see at the top people going to Jokic over Drummond. And then you're going to see people going to the mid-range, high upside guys. Plus, if Drummond has a ceiling game, it probably means that Griffin did not. And so if so it's a way to leverage against the field because I would expect Griffin to be higher owned than Drummond.
I think Griffin's going to be markedly higher owned than Drummond. Like, I think he's going to be a lot higher owned. No,
So do I. Yeah.
it just feels like, And Griffin also has that center eligibility too. Yeah, from an ownership perspective, I expect Griffin to be top 5 on this slate, and I think Drummond is going to be God, a lot lower in terms of ownership. Maybe I'm wrong on top 5 ownership on Griffin, but I certainly think that he's going to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong on this. I admittedly projecting ownership is not my strong suit, Adam. But you would think that people are going to be chasing these Griffin games. And
yeah, absolutely. He was 20% last slate, and I didn't think was really even that close to being like any sort of optimal play. Now he's coming off an 80-point game in a clearly really, really, really good spot.
Facing Channing Frye. And
yeah.
Drummond out there, what are you going to put Thompson on? You could try and stick Nance on him, which is actually Cleveland's best chance, but Blake's still gonna to get to him. Outside of that, anyone you have from the rest of this game, whether it be Reggie or Ish or anyone else, or Reggie Bullock.
Yeah, so I don't mind Reggie or Ish. I think both their price tags are perfectly fine. I think they do have some upside there. And then outside of that, though, projecting minutes for the rest of this Detroit team is really, really tough because they just have so many bodies. And even Dwayne Casey has kind of said that he has too many guys. Like Luke Kennard didn't play the first couple of games, and he was like, "What am I supposed to do? Play 15 guys?" He rejoined the rotation last game. You saw Langston Galloway still play around 20 minutes. The really weird thing was Reggie Bullock played 40 and Stanley Johnson played about 20. I don't know why. I don't expect that to continue, but I guess it could. It basically makes it so I don't feel confident in anyone outside of the main 4 guys, except for Bullock. I think it's at least 30 minutes with the upside for more.
I will say, if you're deciding between Reggie Jackson and Ish Smith, like, one of them is a lot cheaper, but he's actually been producing at a higher per minute rate. But Reggie Jackson definitely has the 35-minute upside there. But it's not unrealistic to see Reggie play 30 minutes and Ish play 29 minutes either, because Ish has played 29, 30, and then 33 in that overtime game. Jackson played 39. Being that neither are elite per minute producers, I'd probably just take the savings on Ish, who's probably only going to play maybe a few fewer minutes than Reggie Jackson if this game's competitive. And if it's not competitive, Ish Smith probably gains a few minutes as well over Jackson.
Yeah, they've closed all games alongside each other, Jackson and Ish.
Right. I'm saying if it's a blowout, there's a chance that Ish gets a little bit of that additional run. While
yeah, for sure.
All right. Boston and OKC. Russ Westbrook made his debut on, what was it, Sunday or Monday? At this point, I don't even. I think Sunday. It was Sunday. Yeah. 58 fantasy points, 32, 12, and 8. Meanwhile, Dennis Schroeder off the bench played 32. Actually, I'm sorry. Played 32 minutes. 8 assists, 14 points fantasy plays. Not even from a fantasy standpoint, but I just personally think that picking up Dennis Schroeder as bench depth behind Westbrook is one of the smartest things the Thunder could have done, and especially just not re-signing Melo. But I think Schroeder is your perfect backup point guard, and he can do a great job running the second unit. That's just an aside.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
All right, now let's talk fantasy. This game likely going to see a fair. If there was one game that you could see being relatively lower scoring, it's this one. Maybe Detroit and Cleveland. I guess because I think a Portland and Orlando goes over, but that's neither here nor there. The Thunder's defensive rating with and without Andre Roberson is so much different. With Andre Roberson on the floor last year, they were like top 3 in defensive rating. With him off the court last year, they were bottom 5. That's how much of a difference this guy's made. So this is not, a ridiculously stout OKC defense, especially with Roberson off the court. He does make a big difference, and he won't be back for at least another 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there will be a good player or two from Boston. It's just the issue that we've talked about basically every time the Celtics have played this year. And it's really tough to pinpoint where it's going to come from any given game because there are so many quality players on this team. Kyrie Irving certainly has a ceiling and he's reasonably priced. It's not a bad matchup for him at all. So I think he's, a pretty good play. Jaylen Brown probably plays around 31, 32 minutes at a $5,100 DraftKings price tag. There's certainly upside there. It can go poorly for sure. My favorite play, though, is Jason Tatum. I have him projected for 34 minutes, and he's just been really, really good this year across the board. He's got a 24% usage rate, but he's also passing the ball well. He's also rebounding a bit more than I think was expected. So he's the guy that if I'm going to one person from Boston, Tatum's my preferred one, and then I'll mix in guys like Irving, Horford, and Jaylen.
Yeah. By the way, there was some conversation in chat about the highest usage guy for Cleveland. I still think that Clarkson will be the highest usage player on this team tonight. It's just the minutes are unclear. He actually has a 30% usage rate this season. Could definitely be Osman as well, but I just want to throw it out there that if you're going for a ceiling play that isn't Chidi Osman, I think Clarkson is the guy, but we already discussed that.
Yeah, Hood would be my other guess out of the starters.
But yeah, just because if he does decide that he wants to play basketball and take 20 shots, right, exactly. He just seems so disinterested, hasn't he? It's crazy.
Yep.
I'm with you on Jason Tatum. Love what this kid's been doing. He just continues to build and grow upon his performances. Rebounding's been fantastic. He's scoring. And hey, when you're a guy like Tatum and you have the athleticism that he does, and you're attempting, shots from everywhere on the court, but you can knock down threes and you can get to the basket. I like that. I want to see more shots around the rim, but I think that'll come because there's no reason with his physical gifts that he shouldn't be doing that. I think it's a perfectly fine spot for him. What are your thoughts? The problem is that center's just so stacked. I'm a big fan of a lot of times when I play Steven Adams, I make an emphasis to pair him with Westbrook because Westbrook gets Steven Adams involved, and almost half of his assisted field goals come from Westbrook per year. One of Boston's semi-defensive weaknesses is that they have an undersized front court, but curious to see where you're at on this OKC side.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough for me to prioritize Adams just because the position is so deep, like you said. Exactly. I have him projected to have a good game. I have him projected for like 35 DraftKings points, but I'm just still don't really think that gets it done at $6,800 on DraftKings on this slate. Westbrook's really the only guy here that I'm excited about. He looked like his old self against the Kings. He had a 58% expected assist percentage. He had like a 35.5% usage rate. He rebounded well. He, was I think 2 assists shy of a triple double, and he played 36 minutes. So there's really nothing not to like there, other than it is a tough matchup. Boston so far it has the best defensive rating in the NBA, which we pretty much expected.
Yeah.
But I think that Westbrook is clearly a really good play. Point guard's not a particularly deep position either, especially if you don't like guys from Cleveland. So, I like Westbrook a lot. Jeremy Grant, I have projected for about 25 minutes. He's 3,800. He's the kind of guy that certainly can, run into some extra stats defensively and rebounding. And there are enough like small, they're not like long bodies on Boston wings for him to defend.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would like Steven Adams a lot if this were a slate where center wasn't so deep. I think it's an exploitable position for him, and forget about Westbrook because I don't believe the one thing that does come into play is that if you look at Adams' rebounding totals, 11, 18, and 14, he did have 14 in that last game that Westbrook played. But as well as I do that team defers to Westbrook a lot on rebounds, and Steven Adams over the course of the season with Westbrook on the court is not going to see the same rebounding totals, and I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, so absolutely.
What's up?
I agree.
Yeah, just something to throw out there in terms of, I won't even call it regression, just a byproduct of a freak of nature and Westbrook being out on the court. Should we hit this last game?
Yeah, should be a fun one.
All right, Denver and LA. Hey, Rim, you finally got your first win, pal. Only took you a week and a half with LeBron James on your team. Congrats. I have to give him shit because he's everywhere. He won't leave me alone. LeBron at 10-7. Giannis definitely the better play yesterday. LeBron did not play the fourth quarter. If he played the fourth quarter, you're definitely not disappointed, but he didn't, and that game developed into a blowout. Now you've got him against the Denver team that, Adam, I don't know about you, but I have been wildly impressed with this Denver squad, and this is probably where this could be where we disagree. You know what? Not even disagree, because I'm just pointing out what I've seen so far, not necessarily what I project to see going forward. Denver's defense has been really, really good thus far. Actually, they have the same defensive rating as the Boston Celtics. They're playing at a pace that's right around the middle of the league, but their defense, particularly in the backcourt, has been astoundingly good to start the year. Now, you can always look at matchups and say, oh, well, let's see who they played. Sacramento, oh, they played Golden State. Phoenix, they played the Clippers. So a couple real easy ones mixed in and then a few tough ones. But yes, their defense has been very good to start the year, and that's just a fact.
Yeah, they've been really impressive defensively. And from an analysis standpoint, I love Mike Malone right now because he's made our lives really, really easy with the rotations that he's running. Everyone on the team plays one position and they have a direct backup. So it's been really, really easy to break down. You have Jokic, obviously penciled in for about 34 minutes, assuming the game stays competitive, in a really, really good spot here against the Lakers. I love Jokic. The only issue is how deep the position is. And paying up for him may not really be optimal because you can save money and still get a really, really high ceiling. I do think that if you're multi-entering tournaments, especially the massive field ones, you should be playing some Mason Plumlee, not in the same lineup as Jokic, obviously. But if Jokic runs into foul trouble, if the game blows out, if something weird happens, which you kind of need to happen to win a huge tournament like that, Plumlee is a very productive, permanent player when he gets the opportunity. This is a matchup where I would expect him to do well. And he's going to be, basically unowned because everyone's going to play Jokic or some other center. But the point being that you can get a really cheap guy in some circumstances that is productive. So I will have some Plumlee in tournaments just as a leverage play against Jokic, who I obviously really like. Power forward's a mess. You have Millsap and Trey Lyles, who both would be very productive players if they got substantial minutes.
Well, Plumlee's also eligible at power forward too, so it's not taking away that depth that you have at the position.
Yeah, that's a really good call too.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And yeah, so power forward's where it kind of sucks because like Millsap would be a good play, but it's hard to project him for more than 27 or 28 minutes because to do so, you have to be projecting Trey Lyles for less than like 20, and that doesn't seem likely. So they are both guys that I would be interested in if I saw a path to more minutes, but I don't. Lyles, I still have some interest in because he's 4,600 and he's a high per minute producer, and this is a spot that I think suits him well. So I don't mind him as value on this slate. The small forward position should be split between Torrey Craig and Juan Hernangomez, with probably 26 to 28 minutes going to Craig. Neither one's a highly productive player, but again, the pace of this game should make it so cheap guys can run into enough stats where they actually become pretty viable options. So I like Craig, more than Hernangomez, but I think they're both viable options. Gary Harris is a really, really good play. Should play 34, 35 minutes. Monster usage rate this year at about 24%. He's really stepped up with Will Barton out. And then I think it's a good bounce back spot for Jamal Murray, who the last two games has dealt with foul trouble and then a blowout and an injury against Golden State. So
I love Murray here.
Yeah. His price tags come down a little bit. Point guard, again, isn't that strong. I believe he's also point guard, shooting guard eligible, and he obviously has a high ceiling.
Murray has a low floor too. I think we'd agree on that. I think it'll be higher this year than it's been. Point guards take some time to develop. He'd been used at the 2. He's clearly better suited at the 1. But at 5,900, it's really hard not to like Jamal Murray here. By the way, it's Juancho Hernangomez.
What did I say?
I'm messing with you. I know you said Juan. I just think I just think it's such a phenomenal name. Yeah, that I like to say it in full. And then the other was Guillermo is it Guillermo Gomez?
Yeah,
Or
that's who I thought I had, like, said when you
yeah. Just some great names. But yeah, Denver with Will Barton out, it obviously makes a big difference, and we know that he's going to be out for a while. Trey Lyles, a guy that generally produces decent per minute numbers. I think Jamal Murray here, though, is one of my favorites just because of the price point. You mentioned Gary Harris, another one that makes a whole lot of sense, and he's been very productive to start the year. I love that he's getting up 15 plus shots per game. You need that from Gary Harris because Gary Harris is not going to stuff the stat sheet elsewhere. Jamal Murray can do that on occasion. And then Jokic is just a triple double threat every time he takes the court. So if you want to play Nikola Jokic, you go ahead and do that, and no one's going to blame you for it. Now, on the other side, I must say, dude, I mentioned this like 2 games into the preseason. If JaVale McGee gets 22 to 25 minutes per game, he's going to be a fantasy stud. I never expected to see 28 and then 26 in a blowout. Him and having LeBron on the team has just helped him immensely. God, I love what we're getting out of JaVale McGee. Am I saying you have to play tonight? No, there's going to be, it's going to come a time where he doesn't have a great game, but the dude has blocked like he's blocked more than half of the field goal opportunities against him at the rim. He's just producing such wild numbers this season, and he's doing it with 20, low 20 or high 20, whatever it is in minutes. At 5,300, I said it yesterday. I'll say it again today. It's still not a bad spot, but Denver's defense has been very, very solid to start the year. This game should still be very high scoring, and I don't think defense should be too much of an issue, though.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really interesting one to break down. And we were talking about the rotations a lot in chat earlier. Kyle Kuzma's not playing center with Brandon Ingram out. And so that means that Jonathan Williams has been getting the backup center minutes. He played every single competitive minute that JaVale McGee was not on the floor yesterday. But also, JaVale McGee, you mentioned his minutes. He lost minutes yesterday to a blowout. He lost minutes the game before that to foul trouble. If you just like extrapolate his first half playing time into a full game, it would be 34 minutes, which I don't think is particularly likely, but I'm not convinced that it's not a possibility either. The point being that there's just monster upside for him because even if you project 26 to 28 minutes, he stands out at his price. If you project even more, then it just becomes like almost a lock in terms of tournament upside, at least. And then beyond that, you have the normal guys like Kuzma still playing huge minutes, just not at the 5. LeBron's LeBron. Josh Hart and Lonzo are both, reasonably good plays. I think Lance Stevenson might kind of be a trap coming off last night's monster game. He got in the game a little bit early because of Lonzo foul trouble. He still didn't play big minutes in that first half. Most of his playing time came in the fourth quarter of a non-competitive game. So I still only have him projected around 20 minutes. And if people are going to chase that, I'd rather just go elsewhere.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's close it out here, and then we'll turn it over to Eddie and Josh. Or is it Chris tonight? Josh, is it you or Chris?
No, it's me. I got the
It's you.
Chick-fil-A in my mouth.
I can hear him chewing on them waffle fries. Yeah, just very quickly because we got to be out. I'll let you do the analysis here, and I will listen. Who are your top plays from the Lakers side of the ball?
JaVale McGee drop off to everyone else, and then LeBron, Lonzo, and Hart.
All right, no Contavious Caldwell-Pope, right?
Yeah, I'm good.
He did play 33 minutes last night. Just throwing it out there, but
blowout run.
Really, what's that?
Blowout run.
Of course. All right, it's been fun. Thanks as always for watching. This has been the Deeper Dive. Hit that like button if you've yet to do so. We got 716 people watching right now, 49 likes. Up that ratio for us, boy. Come on, we love you, and we want some love back. That's all. That's all we ask for, right? Enjoy your Chick-fil-A, Josh. I'm going to go get some myself. Adam doesn't eat fast food because he's pure like that. We'll be back with you tomorrow on the Deeper Dive. Good luck tonight. Hit us up on Twitter or in Slack with any additional questions. Peace. We clear?